All right, well, let's go ahead and get this started. Hi, I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Lauren.
And we are Glib Shark. Tonight, we are without a Mr. Jack Edithville, but he will be back next week. However, we do have the lovely, the talented, the amazing Obo Crazy here with This Week in Geek. How are you, Obo?
I am desperately trying to pay attention to anything that is real news. Although I've got one real news thing in here. It's science related, which means there will be actual facts because facts are important. If you've been watching the news recently about science, you might have noticed that Venus has been in the news the last, say, day. That's because Japanese scientists have detected a large bow-shaped anomaly in the upper atmosphere of Venus. Strangely, the 6,200-mile-long structure doesn't move. This is despite the fact that the winds on Venus are 225 miles per hour. That's right. There's something on Venus and it ain't moving. Researchers from the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency's Institute of Space and Aeronautical Science believe the phenomenon is the largest stationary, quote, gravity wave ever recorded in the solar system. Emanating from the mountains below it, the unusual weather phenomenon is strong enough to withstand ferocious background winds, causing an enormous curved structure to hang in the upper atmosphere like a giant scar. So Venus is weird. Venus is just crazy weird. It's rife with exceptionally strange atmospheric behavior, including the aforementioned 223 mile an hour wind, and the fact that it's just covered in sulfuric acid and the whole thing rotates faster than the planet itself. And it's just weird. Definitely go check out some of the details about this and the pictures. The pictures kind of make it look like the Eye of Sauron in a weird way. And definitely when you think about how quickly the wind around it is moving, it's kind of fascinating. And you can do a Google search and listen and read all of the science. It gets very deep into the science of, say, gravitational waves. And it's fascinating. It is definitely not something I'm going to repeat here because I do not have the science aptitude to be able to read some of those terms. So we're going to back away from science terms and move on to more fun things like Mark Hamill. So you may remember that a little while ago, I think it was about a week or two ago, it was just after Christmas, Mark Hamill surprised everybody by recording something as the Joker. See, Mark Hamill hasn't done anything as the Joker in a very long time. He had officially retired from doing that voice, even though he's kind of universally acclaimed at being pretty much one of the best Jokers ever of all time. But he surprised everybody by offering up an after Christmas present of recording a little snippet of the Joker reading one of Donald Trump's tweets. Now, I know we're not going to talk about Donald Trump, really. What we're talking about is the Joker and Mark Hamill doing the Joker. So it's him just reading one of Donald Trump's tweets, but he's reading it as the Joker. And it was kind of hilarious and creepy because that's what made his Joker amazing, is that he was both hilarious and disturbingly creepy at the same time. It's been a week or two or three, and now he's back with two more of his tweets, which is just trying to describe it would entail an impression, and me trying to do an impression of Mark Hamill doing the Joker would fail miserably on all accounts. So once again, I encourage you, go to your local internet service provider and look up these tweets. He does one on Meryl Streep. He does another about a Martin Luther King tirade, both of which continue the grand tradition of Mark Hamill's Joker being both hysterically funny and disturbingly creepy all at the same time. Finally, something you don't have to go to the internet for because I'm just going to read it. As a musician, especially a classical musician, it's not often that we get information or shout outs on social media. Now, I'm relatively fortunate playing the oboe. As a classical musician, as an oboist, I get a lot of solo time and I get a lot of attention, and oboes are pretty important when it comes to being in a symphony. But if you are, say, the triangle player, you don't necessarily get a lot of specific love, even if you happen to be the triangle player for the San Francisco Symphony, which is one of the most well-respected and top symphonies in the country. So you may be one of the top percussionists in the United States, but still not a lot of people are giving you a shout out unless you happen to be the triangle player for the San Francisco Symphony. So a little while ago, the symphony performed Anton Bruckner's Symphony Number 8, which it's a hardcore work and definitely worth a listen to. What's important is that someone was so impressed with the triangle playing that he tweeted at the San Francisco Symphony about it. The percussionist actually took the tweet and printed it out to post on the percussion wall in the rehearsal space for the San Francisco Symphony. So if you do happen to follow Rob Knopper, then you would see the amazing tweet by James Bellinger, who is also at JBell, who says, and I quote, "Triangle's guy brought the motherfucking heat to Bruckner's 8th at SF Symphony." That's all for This Week in Geek. I'm Oboe Crazy, and I really just want somebody to tell me that I brought the motherfucking heat to a symphony.
The world is indeed a strange place where you can bring the motherfucking heat. And if you have heat you want to bring to Oboe Crazy, tweet at her at Oboe Crazy. Tweet at us at Glib Shark, and myself at Road_Block, and Jack Edithel, well, at Jack Edithel. And follow us on Twitter. Check out our YouTube page. These shows end up on YouTube. It's crazy. And check out our other videos, our Twitch stream, twitch.tv/Glibshark. Find us out there, subscribe, like, and we will continue to bring this awesome podcast to you. We'll probably continue to bring it anyway because that's just what we do. So, but we
don't really need an excuse to talk to each other, but it's a lot more fun when we do have an excuse, especially for our significant others.
And it is so, I gotta tell you, one of my favorite things is going to a place like RTX and seeing people show up to our panels, seeing people interact with us and say, hey, I really liked what Carlton Tanks did, or I think Bernie is really awesome, and stuff like that. Or, hey, I listened to your one show and I really liked that one This Week in Geek, or that one movie review you did. That stuff is really, really awesome. I love it, and I love interacting with you guys. And if you interact with us by liking and subscribing and all that, we will be more than happy to hang out and see y'all when we see y'all. But I
agree.
We actually had a little bit of, just to pull the curtain back a little bit on Dungeons and Dragons and Drunks production, we had a very interesting last couple of days. I think it was the first time we've ever recorded twice in a row, on two days in a row.
Definitely 2 days in a row. There may have been a point last year where we recorded twice in 1 week, but definitely not one right after another. And it was interesting mostly because I am used to having a little bit of time as the DM in between episodes to be able to put together stuff. Because as a DM, especially if you guys aren't in the middle of a dungeon that I have created, or, where at least I've got everything planned out, a lot of my time prepping as a DM is just mulling over what I think you might do and prepping that and being like, well, they could do this. All right, let me get ready for that. Well, they could do that. Well, let me get ready for that. So only having about 24 hours to be like, I wonder what they're going to do, and make sure that I have options available for all of the time, all of the things that you might do. That was exciting, but I think it was a lot of fun to be able to play immediately afterwards. And I suspect, without spoiling anything, that last night's game, if we had had the choice, everyone would have chosen to continue and play tonight immediately just to see what would happen.
I absolutely agree. I was telling one of my friends today that last night was one of my favorite sessions. Just like in the entire run of Dungeons and Dragons and Drunks, of the sessions that I can remember, because it's Dungeons and Dragons and Drunks, that last night was phenomenal, and thanks to you and your guidance and your storytelling, and quite frankly, thanks to us for being awesome, it turned into a very, very productive session that actually for us kind of ended in a cliffhanger. So we'll see how that goes.
Didn't kind of end in a cliffhanger. It's a total cliffhanger. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I thank you. I thought it went really, really well. I thought half of it went really, really well simply because I got to do what my favorite thing to do is, although it sounds lazy as hell, when I get to just sit and listen to you guys talk, specifically about what you're planning on doing. Like, it's fun when you guys banter with each other because you're all super funny. But like, when I get to sit and listen to you guys plan, it's fascinating and it is exciting. And when you guys get into the game and the plot enough to start to, I guess argue would be the correct word, but that makes it sound like it was heated, and it wasn't. It was just, should we do this? Should we do that? And then trying to keep a poker face so that I don't give away, when you guys are making plans of like, oh, I hope they do this. Oh, I hope they don't do that. So that's always fun.
Yeah.
And no, I think this will be the second week in a row I said this, or at least I might have just said it on Dungeon Drunks. I don't sit and try to plan a way to thwart you. I super am excited just to see what you guys come up with.
I have heard some of our listeners and some of our fans describe our planning in other different, less complimentary ways. But that's okay, because those people are jerks. We love them. We love the people who take time out of their day to listen to the kind of stuff that we make. And honestly, from the bottom of my heart, we really do appreciate it. But
listen, half the fun of listening to a D&D podcast or a D&D game or of whatever version of D&D that you're watching other people play, half the fun is watching them make decisions or mistakes that you would not make, because then you get to enjoy watching that. And I think that's half the fun. That's why we play D&D, to be able to do crazy shit and maybe make mistakes, but do it in awesome ways. And if you're listening to Dungeon Drunks and one of the characters or, all the players decide that they're going to go do something or they're going to react in some way that you don't agree with, then that's awesome, because that means you don't know what's going to happen next. And that's half the fun of D&D. Anyway, end rant.
So, I actually, for once in my life, do not have a whole lot to talk about. There is one thing that I'll probably talk about more next week. I am in the process of finishing Mass Effect 3. And one of the reasons why I think I'll wait till next week is because since Jack is a big Mass Effect fan, I want to kind of bounce some stuff off him. But I am running through
I'm a huge Mass Effect fan too, so I'm excited as well.
Yeah. And right now I am running through the From Ashes DLC. I am right before kind of the sequence of events that leads you to the end of the game. So I'm getting a lot of stuff out of the way. Like I said, I'm playing From Ashes. I'm going to be playing Leviathan and the Citadel DLCs and cleaning up any last-minute side missions before I go headlong into the end of the game. I do regret... I misunderstood how things worked with the Xbox One's backwards compatibility. So I started my Mass Effect 2 run on my 360, because this was before Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3 were backwards compatible. So I went through, and right about the time I was getting ready to finish Mass Effect 2, I ended up getting seeing, it's backwards compatible now. So I started up Mass Effect 3 on the 360, uploaded my save, and then started it on my Xbox. Now, I had a bunch of DLC, but there were a couple of pieces of DLC that I didn't get. And when I bought them on the emulated 360 on the Xbox One, I misunderstood how you added that DLC. You go into the managed game; it's not in the regular queue, and I didn't add a bunch of it, and I was already most of the way through the game before I realized. And one of the friends of the show, Izzy, has kind of been guiding me along and giving me pointers about certain aspects of the game, and she really likes the From Ashes DLC because you get the one character, and I didn't get him until just now. I'm actually as soon as we get done here, I'm going to go back and finish that mission where you acquire him. So apparently he has a lot of great lines, and so I've watched YouTube videos of some of his lines, but I was kind of disappointed. And then I did something that made the Citadel DLC apparently a little less enjoyable. So I don't know. We'll see how that moves on. I lost Miranda.
Oh, okay.
Spoilers.
So,
Spoilers for a 5-year-old game.
yeah, I think we're probably okay on that. It's good for you to mention it, but I think we're probably okay. Um, yeah, I mean, Miranda's not my favorite character, but certainly not having a character there for the Citadel DLC, that's you're just missing opportunities for interaction. So that kind of sucks. But it happens. It's hard to do a perfect run of everything, even when you know what you're supposed to be doing. Yeah,
Yeah.
the Mass Effect
most of
is
oh, sorry, go ahead.
no. Go ahead and finish.
Well, I was just going to say that I did a perfect run where everyone survives in Mass Effect 2 because I didn't want to miss out anything in Mass Effect 3. And if I decide to go do like an NG plus run through again, I will be a lot. I won't try and save everyone. I mean, I was very careful. I mean, I guess I will, but it won't be like as important for me to kind of play things out, just to kind of see how things shake out. Like if, for say, Jack isn't there or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I am so in love with the mechanics of this game, the way the fights go out, the way the powers work. I'm playing a Vanguard right now, so he's with his 200% power cooldown. He's basically charging and novaing everything, and it's so fucking fun. So, and then anyone he can't nova or charge, he shotguns in the face. So that's fun too. It's been super super awesome, and obviously this is kind of the run up for Andromeda. I'm thinking about going back and backwards compatibility Mass Effect 1 and seeing how that goes. I don't know. We'll see. But right now, there's plenty of Mass Effect 3 to get through.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's a huge game, and I kind of envy you in a way because Mass Effect 2 is one of my most favorite games of all time. And I super enjoyed Mass Effect 3 as well. It's a little bittersweet because of things that happen. I appreciate the updated ending. So I didn't have a huge problem with the original ending. I liked the updated ending more. I felt like it explained some stuff that was very vague. I felt like it gave a little more there were people who complained that the updated ending was basically like, you wanted it spelled out what all your characters do and, what happens to everybody. And I'm like, yeah, the main reason we all play these games is because of the character interaction, or at least for me, that's what it was. So yes, I want to know how these characters fare and what, how did all of my choices and their choices and what happened affect them? That's what, I don't care as much about what happened to my character as much as what happened to everybody else. I have such a love of that series and the last two games in specific that I have this horrible, stupid problem in where I can't play them again because I was very, very lucky in both Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3, and where my playthroughs were pretty much exactly like the things that happened were what I wanted. I managed to have a perfect playthrough of Mass Effect 2 where I saved everybody, and Mass Effect 3 I managed to be able to make all the decisions I wanted to make.
Right.
I guess would be the way to put it. And it helps that I kind of play as a goody two shoes, so I'm super Paragon. So I don't have to walk any kind of weird fine line. The problem becomes that's my Shepard's story. And I have a very hard time, and I realize this in Mass Effect 2, I have a very hard time going back and replaying those games because I want to just make the same decisions because that's my Shepard story. And the reason to go back would be to play as a different character and to make different decisions and to see different outcomes. And for me, I would rather just go and watch a YouTube vid because my Shepard wouldn't make those decisions.
I get that. I really do. And especially in Mass Effect 2, and this is something I've mentioned to friends, is that Shepard is a dick, but it's like unnecessarily so. Like just an asshole to be an asshole. Like there's nothing really there. It's very much like some of the politicians that we've seen recently who seem to be jerks for no reason. Like, hey, we're going to do this. Well, why? I don't know, because it has someone's name on it that we don't like. And it's like, but that's not logical. You're screwing a lot of people for no reason. And that's how I feel Renegade Shep is. I feel like, at least in Mass Effect 2, I don't remember so much in Mass Effect 1. But Mass Effect 2, definitely a dick just to be a dick. That said, in Mass Effect 2, it was a lot easier to do, like, since the Paragon and Renegade were different scales, you could do all the Renegade interrupts you wanted, because you might as well, for most of them, and it really wouldn't affect anything. I think the only one, I did 2 playthroughs of Mass Effect 2, and one, I think really the only difference was, in one I lost people, and in that same playthrough I punched the reporter. The second time, I was trying to get my Paragon high enough to make Zaid's loyalty mission check, which is a very hard for a Paragon.
Yes.
So his was one of the last missions I did, but up until then, I was getting all the Paragon I possibly could, and I knew that particular choice was a choice. It wasn't like when you run into the Krogan dude who's like, oh, Clan Wernock will blah, 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 and then you just shoot him, you shoot out the tank that's next to him. That's not a choice. You don't get a Paragon interrupt for that. You just get the Renegade. But for the reporter, you get both. So I stayed my hand, didn't punch her, and got a Paragon deal where he basically just dresses her down. And so, but the first time I punched her, and so, anyway... But my point is, in Mass Effect 3, it works a little different. Like, you can't really maximize both. You pretty much have to go one way because your scale is a combination of both. So if you want to get really high Paragon, you really do have to minimize your Renegade. And that said, I could totally see doing a Renegade run in Mass Effect 3 just because Shepard is a dick, but it's because he's ruthless and he takes the easy way. Like, with a lot of the missions, I found that you can either do this terrible thing that's really easy, or you can work harder and do this not so terrible thing. And it's like, okay, well, I'm doing a Paragon run, so I'm gonna work harder and do the less terrible thing. But if you wanted to just be quick, you could just say, I'm just gonna shoot this guy. And yeah, it's dickish, but it's efficient, and it is something that a Renegade would do because it is a means to an end. So I think the Renegade handling of Mass Effect 3 has been a lot better.
I've had arguments with people who call the Renegade the good. They call it the good and the evil run. I'm like, it's not good and evil. They call it Paragon and Renegade for a very specific reason, and that's the Paragon is, I'm going to do whatever it takes to save the world and do the right thing. And the Renegade is, I'm going to do whatever it takes to save the world. And that's real. And it's the ends justify the means. And yeah, he's a little bit of a dick. Like, there are unnecessary dickish moments, like punching the reporter. But even then you can kind of spin that as that Paragon interrupt, or that Renegade interrupt, is specifically, this reporter is useless and a waste of my time, and that time could be spent finding information to stop the Reapers. And what's the most efficient way of getting out of this? Friggin' puncher. And so yeah, it's cold and calculating, and he or she is not a good a fun person to be around, but I don't think that makes him or her a bad person. And I don't think it makes them evil, but ruthless is a mindset that Mass Effect isn't the only game to deal with that. To a lesser extent, or not as good of an extent anyway, Fable 3 dove into that, into the idea of you've got a world-ending event coming, and you only have a certain amount of time and a certain amount of resources to save everyone. How are you going to do it? And what are you going to do? And you can't make everybody happy. You can't do everything you want to do. There's not enough time. Who are you going to disappoint? And who are you, what are you going to do to save the world? And while Fable 3 doesn't do it very well, it does really highlight the idea of, if I want to save everyone, I have to have my eyes on the long game, and I can't care about every little person. But Mass Effect lets you do that, and that's always fun. And I appreciate that. But I am the kind of person that goes through and I befriend everybody, and I do all of the story missions for everybody, and I make sure that my Paragon is maxed out so I can make all the Paragon choices so I can save everybody. So yeah, I'm super excited about Andromeda. I'm really happy that they decided to go with a plot that is going to remove them from the from needing to be super tied into the original trilogy of games. And so we get more Mass Effect in that universe without having to deal with that universe's consequences. I think that's probably the best way of going about that without having to, well, how do we pick whose ending, we get from 3 and how we go on from there? No, we're just going to a different galaxy, and it was a decent reason why they're doing it, and I'm excited.
Yeah.
Also, more Turians.
More Turians. And Krogans, apparently, which I didn't think would be a thing, but it's going to be a thing.
Yeah. Well, if the idea is this is a bunch of arcs that are being sent out to save, the races of the galaxy in case the Reapers win, then why wouldn't the Krogans also participate, even if even if they're still in the middle of the genophage and still having a super hard time breeding? That's no reason to give up. So
I'm just wondering which arc they're on, because the 4 arcs were for the humans, Turians, Solarians, and Asari, and that's it.
I could see them actually. I would have to assume they wouldn't be on the human one, but I could actually see a reason for them being on any of the 4. I could especially actually see them ending up on the Solarian one as some kind of guilt-ridden, you did this to us, and so now you're gonna take us along until you get this fixed, kind of thing.
I guess since they weren't mentioned, like they all that was said was, oh, the Solarians, Turians, and Asari, and humans, and it's like, and a lot of people wondered after that, what about the Krogans? So no Krogans? Yeah. And then it's very clear in one of the previews, you see Krogans. A lot of them.
Oh, not just in the previews. I think they have officially announced that one of your teammates is a Krogan.
Well, yeah, like that. He's the guy with on his hump. He has the bone thingy, which is awesome looking.
I think that might actually be a female. Now that I've mentioned that, I think that Krogan is a she.
Oh, that would be neat. I liked the Krogan female we met in Mass Effect 3. That was cool.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll see. I mean, I would like to think that as much as enough of the plot has been, the beginning plot anyway, has been leaked out to us to give us a good idea of what we're getting into, that there's still a lot of surprises along the way. So, well, but I am super duper excited. I haven't pre-ordered it, but I am thinking about it, even though I know pre-ordering is a one of those things that a lot of people will yell at gamers for doing. But we'll see. I reserve the right to pre-order, mostly for the opportunity to be able to pre-download.
Right. And I actually ordered the deluxe version because the super deluxe, I think, just had like multiplayer packs or something like that. I don't know. But I went ahead and got the one where you get the soundtrack and then the pre-order bonus. And I logged on because Izzy reminded me to the Andromeda Initiative website, so you can watch the videos and get like a Pathfinder helmet or something.
Oh, cool. Well, I'll have to look into what exactly you get with all of the different versions, and see if I even want to afford to get one of the special deluxe edition versions, because I I am totally interested in getting special edition stuff, and the soundtrack definitely appeals to me. But if it's mostly going to be in-game cosmetic items, I'm not as interested. So we'll see. But I'm definitely, at the very least, I will quote unquote pre-order it the day before release so that I can have it pre-downloaded before midnight when it unlocks.
Right. Yeah, I've got it, and I don't know if it's already available for pre-download. I wouldn't imagine so, but it's all ready. It's all
Yeah,
ready.
I think they've usually been doing that kind of stuff like the week before with other games. I seem to remember Halo 5, I got like technically downloaded like the week before. You know what, I haven't pre-ordered yet, and I haven't even decided if I'm gonna buy it, and this may be heresy for me to even say, Halo Wars 2.
No.
I'm really on the fence about whether I want to buy that game or not. And it's mostly like, I enjoyed Halo Wars 1. I thought they did a really good job for someone who I don't play RTS. That's not my genre. And I enjoyed Halo Wars 1. And still to this day, I think some of the cutscenes in Halo Wars in the first one are some of the most amazing cutscenes ever. You've played Halo Wars, right?
I have not.
Oh,
Halo
okay.
Wars is, I think it's probably the part of the Halo universe that I visited the least.
Well, I bought it. It's actually one of the only Halo games I don't have all the achievements for, because I bought it and I played it, and I have all the campaign achievements and I have a bunch of the multiplayer, but when I first bought it, most of the multiplayer achievements are earn so many points in the lifetime of your playing of the multiplayer, which is actually a smart way of doing it. The problem was they had made those multiplayer benchmarks super high. Like to reach the top tiers was just the amount of points you needed was insane.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with Halo Wars is whether you see this as a problem or not depends on your point of view. Multiplayer games, especially for an RTS, can last like 45 minutes. So unlike Halo, the FPS, when you sit down and within an hour you could conceivably play 3 or 4 games, 5 or 6 if you're depending on the playlist. Halo Wars, if you got a game an hour, you were lucky. And so it was almost impossible, especially since I'm not a fan of RTS, to get enough points. Anyway, I enjoyed the game, but it's not something I would ever go back to replay because I'm not an RTS fan. And as much as I'm intrigued by Halo Wars 2 and I think it looks really good, Halo is not getting me excited enough about an RTS to want to buy it, which is sad. Now, here's what I suggest. If you like RTS and you like Halo, absolutely. I thought as someone who, as I said, doesn't play RTSs, I thought they did a really good job of bringing that to the console. And it's got some of the most amazing cutscenes ever of all time. It is, and at this point, Halo Wars is relatively old. It's like 5 years old or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
There is specifically a cutscene that I will watch at the drop of a hat. It's later in the game, and so I'll be vague because it's not really spoilerish, but there is a cutscene that involves a very short battle between a couple of Spartans and elites. And the Halo Wars cutscenes, the CGI does, in my opinion, it's the best job of portraying the power as well as the potential grace of Spartans. as they charge forward, they are tanks that know ballet moves essentially. You feel their weight. They're not doing like they're not doing like crazy anime flips and stuff. There is weight to their movement, there is weight to their punches, but yet they can still leap and jump an astounding amount when they need to. And there is a brutal grace to their fight that is what has always been in my head when I picture Master Chief. And at the same time, there is a human fighting an elite, essentially an elite general. And it's also kind of, it's an amazing fight to watch. It's just incredibly well choreographed, very well animated, and it's an astounding visualization of what it really must be like to see this several-ton Spartan who also happens to have the agility to, jump several feet into the air and move incredibly quickly, take down these elites, these fearsome elites. So if you or anyone else listening to this, if you're not interested in playing Halo Wars, totally understand, go Google the cutscenes because they're gorgeous. And so for me, Halo Wars 2, I kind of just want to wait a week and Google the cutscenes.
I'm actually gonna go do that now. I think we're gonna call this a short episode. I think it's been pretty good, and we don't want to dilute it with anything that might suck.
No, that's a good thing. Also, Luke is starting to snore, so I guess I should stop.
Okay. Well, as I said before, you can find us, her at Obo Crazy, me at Road_Block, all of us at Glib Shark. Oh, and at Jack Edithel for Mr. Jack Edithel. And follow us, tweet at us, interact with us. We love hearing from you. Find us on YouTube and find us at twitch.tv/GlibShark. But until next time, this is Jonathan and Lauren saying bye.
Bye.
Where's the thing?